The girl's day started very early. She woke up from the bright sun, which illuminated her entire room and her eyes. She couldn't lie in bed for long. It was unbearable. It seemed like nothing had happened, but she was already slightly in a bad mood. Today she dreamed of times dear to her heart. That's why she is so sleepy and can't come to her senses. Although she fell asleep early yesterday, the lady somehow got out of bed, as usual, goes to the window to see what is happening on the street. This is her usual morning ritual. The girl doesn't just go to the window right away. She has some reasons for this, but more on that later. She is one of those people who likes gloomy and slightly rainy weather because the sun takes all her energy. When she was thinking about how comfortable the weather would be, a guy walked past her window on the street. His name is Leo, and she just dreamed about him. Only there, he was much younger. That's why she looked at him so surprised. The guy accidentally looked up in her direction, and at that moment they both felt awkward, but only a little bit. The girl couldn't react calmly to him. Her cheeks turned red, and everything inside her shrank to an unbearable degree. Her brother travels around the empire, gaining experiences in air, and Leonardo has become an excellent knight. And only she hasn't changed at all. She basically remains the same. The kingdom of Grand Portria, ruled by her father and rich in resources, has been at peace for many years without a single war. The girl was born a princess of this country, and therefore has many beautiful dresses and elegant shoes. And precious stones. She lives happily, absolutely not knowing the need for anything since childhood. It's not that she was unhappy with anything, but sometimes you just want to freely go outside the castle and see what the world is like outside. The girl was admiring the views, and at that moment the maid who comes every day at the same time knocked on her door. She greeted Princess Irene and asked how she slept, because she knows that she has been having problems with that lately. After this, the assistant said that she would immediately prepare clothes for her to change into and bring them to the room. She was about to leave, but at the very last moment she remembered that she wanted to tell her that the lady had received a letter from Prince Vincent. Irene has been waiting for this for so long because she can't wait to find out where he is now, what country he is in, and how he is doing. The assistant brought the letter. The girl opened it in a matter of seconds, but she couldn't even imagine what she would see inside. The letter contained an amazing photograph. Her brother lives in this area. He knows how his sister worries about him, so wherever he is, he always sends her letters like these. She looks at it like a picture, with admiring eyes, because now she can only dream of the sea. Hannah says that their country is surrounded by mountains. So wherever you look, there are only peaks. So she has never seen such places either, much less vacation there. It's hard to believe. But even the assistant has seen much more in her time than the mistress, because she has been doomed to remain in the castle since childhood. From the first day of her birth, she is literally forbidden to go outside alone, and she doesn't like to be with anyone. Irene is very jealous of her brother. Of course, she is happy for him, but these photos make her sad, because it is very unfair that someone has freedom and someone does not. She can't even imagine what it's like to walk freely on the street, much less move between countries. For her, it's an unimaginable dream that will probably never come true. The girl thought about whether she should say that she wanted to take a short walk around the village. Although if she did that, her father would probably order her to take a couple dozen guard knights with her. Literally a couple of minutes passed. She screamed at the top of her voice that she had figured out how to get out of here unnoticed, as if this was truly something brilliant. She suggests that Hannah go to the village, just the two of them, and the assistant doesn't even know how to correctly say that this is a very bad idea. She says that the lady should under no circumstances go anywhere without knights, because her father ordered it so. Irene is against the rules because they will stand out too much, and there will be very few places to go. She is already so tired of sitting here that she is ready to get out into the wild by any means. Then the assistant thought that she understood her very well, because she herself was already tired of this monotony. She also lacked something new. The girl was already disappointed. She even managed to get offended and almost burst into tears because she perceived this answer as a betrayal. And then Hannah says that she also wants to see the world with her own eyes. And Irene immediately takes her hands and says that if they don't do it themselves, or at least try, then they will dream about it for the rest of their lives. They didn't decide on this for long. Irene immediately took advantage of the agreement and dragged her assistant out into the street. They try to walk quickly so that no one notices. and the assistant still doubts that they will remain unpunished. She also asks the girl not to go far from her, because if they get lost, each of them will have problems. They pass by a kiosk with fruits and vegetables, saw that there was no choice at all, and as it turned out, this year the harvest was poor, so there were very few vegetables. The girls asked the salesperson how things were going with sales, and the woman looked down and replied that it had been much better before. She may have a maximum of a couple of customers here all day long. Because of the heat, the products spoil and quickly become unsightly, and no one has time to buy them, so she just throws half of the goods in the trash. The money earned is only enough for the most necessary food, bread, and water, and Irene listens to how no one in the castle warned her about the drought, and you, as always, were in abundance. She had never heard of people having such problems. She even felt a little ashamed to listen to all this, because her family could do something about it, but they don't. Meanwhile, the woman asks if they are going to buy anyone or just came to talk. But she asked about it so strangely that the girl hinted that she was just walking, and the woman began to drive them away and ask them not to waste her time. Hannah also suggests that she not waste any time and move on before it's too late, so that no one recognizes them here. They just looked away, immediately looking at the boy who sells gorgeous bouquets right in the middle of the street. Then they noticed that customers approached him more often than the food sellers, and they once again felt sorry for that woman. Irene assumed that he must be from the neighboring village, and then thought that there was no point in thinking about it, because she didn't know the locals anyway, and it didn't matter to her who he was. It turns out Hannah has already seen him. She knows that the guy's from an orphanage, and that he has to earn money to live from such a young age. The girl asks if the church or the orphanage should not take care of him, so that the child does not have to earn money for himself while he is supported by them. The assistant says that the village is so poor that one cannot count on such support or help. Grand Portria, a country rich in resources, where no one is hungry and where peace has reigned for a long time. This was written in all the documents, however, that such villages exist and that a child who has lost his parents is forced to work only for survival. No one had ever told her anything like that, so she always thought that everything was fine in that regard, but that's how it turned out. And then a mental question arises in her mind. Can't she at least help this child? Meanwhile, Hannah reminds them that it's time to go. After all, the sun is already setting. It's not safe to continue the walk. She didn't have time to answer her. Someone shouted across the street, something like, "Stop, thief." But literally a second ago, everything was calm. The girls turn around, realizing that something very noisy is about to happen, but they still couldn't move aside. Hannah regretted that she had not persuaded the lady to leave here earlier, because now it was unknown how it would all end. According to one salesperson, a girl dared to touch the product and almost walked away with it while he was looking away. The girl explains that he simply misunderstood her. She just wanted to look at another product, and he presented it as if she was a thief. She felt hurt that he yelled at her like that, disgraced her in front of the whole street, so she just threw those buns at him. And then she wanted to run away, but there were too many people around who delayed her a little. The girl tripped, and Irene couldn't stand aside. She immediately rushed to help her, because no one else would do it, especially since she understands that if that man approaches that lady, he might hit her and maybe even kick her. Hannah doesn't even think about helping in any way. She's more concerned about everything ending well for the two of them. Mrs. This situation could attract even more attention to them, and then the princess's father will definitely punish them both. At this point, the man understands that he could be seriously accused, so he began to justify himself, as if she herself had been asking for trouble and had provoked him. He screams that he is not guilty of anything and that she herself put herself in harm's way, as if she does not understand how strange it sounds. I wonder how it will all end, because the situation is ambiguous. Everything can turn very quickly, and it can also drag on for a long time. It all depends on whether people want to stretch this situation out for several hours, or whether they will calmly disperse, each with their own opinion. You might think that all the most important things have already happened, but in fact the most interesting things are just beginning. This girl who suffered lifts her face, and at that moment Hannah thought that she was hallucinating something, because the lady and the stranger are as alike as two peas in a pod, as if they were twins and not complete strangers. It's very similar to how fate brought them together. They are now looking into each other's eyes how to understand this. It's as if they are looking in a mirror and see their reflection. It's good that at least they are wearing different clothes, so you can tell them apart. The assistant had already resigned herself to the fact that they wouldn't be able to leave here quickly. This would take at least half an hour. As a result, the lady's cheek turned red and also swelled up a bit, and that girl felt terribly awkward because it all happened because of her. Hannah suggests not to pay attention to anyone and just go home because they will help her there anyway, and she doesn't want to deal with these people anymore. The girl agreed, but before that, she decided to give the stranger some money because apparently, since she wanted to steal food, she had very little money. She gave her a few coins and was about to leave, but the stranger asked them to stop because she wanted to atone for her guilt a little. She says that if you don't apply something cold to the swollen area, a bruise will remain and will take a long time to heal. And then she said that she had a house not far from here, so she suggested going there with her, if no one was against it, of course. She will help the princess there, of course. Hannah doubts very much that this is a good idea, but she has already resigned herself to the fact that the mistress does not listen to her and just goes, what will she say to this? On the way, the assistant hinted several times that communicating with thieves was not the best idea, especially going where they suggested. Irene tells her that the girl is just working hard, and since she suggested it, it means she is kind. Besides, she wants to get to know this person better and talk to her a little more, at least for half an hour. Probably there is no point in even guessing what will happen next because everything can change at any moment. What if after some time they end up in the castle, or maybe somewhere else far from home? Considering the fact that the girl has been dreaming about this for a long time, she will easily agree to any such proposal. So all that remains is to watch what happens. Meanwhile, the mistress of the house asks what their names are, to which the princess replies that she is Irene, and the girl next to her is called Hannah. Hannah felt a little awkward because she wasn't used to talking in the company of her mistress, as if they were girlfriends, although this is practically true. But today she was completely relaxed and was afraid to cross the line. It just so happened that the girls are very similar. The lady says that her name is Ivy, after which the princess immediately complimented her that she really likes this name. After that, Ivy says that the girl got slapped instead of her and even gave her money. And after that, she asked why she suddenly decided to stand up for a stranger and who she is to have such a kind soul. Ivy noticed that they had such high quality and expensive jewelry, and in these parts there were simply no people who could afford it. The girl doesn't believe that things are that bad here, so she asked what they do if someone gets hurt or, even worse, gets seriously ill. Ivy replied that they just endure. Apply ice or bandage the abrasions with cloth until they heal. That's their treatment, regardless of the extent of the problem. This is very different from how the princess imagined it. Maybe this is one of the reasons why her father is categorically against her leaving the house unattended. She really didn't want to live the life of ordinary people, because it wasn't life, but some kind of mockery. People have no money, no medical services, literally nothing to even feel comfortable. What can we say? Even if it is rare to find jobs, usually people just work for themselves, sell their own harvest so as not to die of hunger. So far, the girl has no idea who is in front of her, so she boldly says what she thinks, namely that, judging by everything, the lady is really a spoiled person who doesn't know life at all. The princess does not deny that the girl is right because she was indeed isolated from the outside world and was in complete disadvantage. Only now they started talking about the fact that they have absolutely the same appearance. And of course, they immediately started thinking about how this could be beneficial for them. It didn't take more than a couple of seconds for Irene to come up with an idea. She asked her friend to come to the mirror together and said that their meeting was probably predetermined by fate, which means that they should take advantage of it. Irene asked if the girl by any chance wants to be her until her cheek heals. It's better for her not to go home like this, especially since Ivy might be interested. Almost no one will notice her anyway. They won't even talk to her or look in her direction. In the castle, she will be able to eat, live in comfortable conditions, and in the end, she will still be grateful. The girl asks if she understood correctly that she needs to pretend to be a noble lady instead of her, and live her life for a while, in her house, in her room, and with her servants. She cannot imagine how this is possible and what will come of it, although inside she has a strong desire to check and agree to this proposal. After that, they had a break. After all, it's not every day that a girl gets such offers that seem too tempting. In the end, it turns out that the girl herself has doubts. Iron asks her to understand the situation and help, and Hannah hints that this is all very serious and not as easy as they think. She tries to explain that no matter how similar they are, it is still very risky and not worth the time. Irene is so fired up by this idea that she doesn't even listen to her assistant. She says that her wounds can't be hidden with makeup, and if she shows up at the castle like this, there will still be problems. But this way, everything can be smoothed out a little. Moreover, there is nothing complicated about it. You just need to sit in your room, pretend to be depressed, and even if she constantly walks around the territory, no one will notice anything. Hannah tries to explain that she can't leave the mistress here. It could be dangerous for her, and she herself won't be able to find a place for herself. And the lady also asks the assistant, when she returns, to convey a message to Leo. She thinks that he will certainly understand everything. Hannah promised that she would do everything, but in such a voice that it was obvious that she was not delighted with everything that was happening. Meanwhile, Ivy thinks that she initially had no intention of helping the princess, but if she refuses, she might regret it later. Meanwhile, some time has passed. Ivy is already on the castle grounds, but everything that is happening seems unreal to her, as if it is some kind of vision or dream. She even says out loud that who would have thought that she would become a princess and that the day would come when she would be asked to enter a real castle. A maid was passing by. She thought that the girl was a little out of her mind, but Hannah quickly reacted and started pushing the lady into the room so that no one would suspect anything. She asked her to stay here and not go anywhere without permission, so that Hannah would at least feel calmer. The assistant is going to go to Rex, the girl asked who it was. Hannah had to tell that he is the captain of the Knights of the Order of this country, and that he and the princess grew up together like brother and sister, and also that the princess trusts this man more than anyone else. The girl replied that she understood everything and began to gradually get used to the room. There was something to look at, especially the view from the window. As a result, she spent the whole evening and the whole night in the room. The girl had slept very well recently. She thought she would wake up peacefully and have a delicious breakfast in complete harmony, but everything turned out to be much different than she imagined. The room was very quiet and calm until the moment when Hannah entered the room without knocking with such a scream that it was impossible not to wake up from it. She started demanding that Ivy get up immediately, as if something had happened, although she had not been warned about anything like that. She was not prepared to wake up in such a crazy environment. The girl was in panic and felt like she had let someone down. The lady asked what happened because the worst thing that could happen is that someone found out she's not a real princess. Hannah replied that it was not so. Although it was only a matter of time, something more serious had happened. The princess's brother, Prince Vincent, had just returned. It's a little offensive even for the assistant herself because she knows how the real princess has been waiting for this moment and how upset she would be if she found out that he was arriving today. If she had known about this, she would hardly have suggested this idea yesterday. And in the meantime, Hannah is outraged that the girl is behaving so calmly, as if she doesn't care. Although this is true, the thing is that there will be a banquet tonight where the entire royal family will gather, and naturally the princess should be there too. The girl was only happy about this, but the assistant still has the opposite. She is the only one of the two who sympathizes with responsibility. She understands that Ivy does not owe anything to anyone, but if the truth comes out, it will be the end. She panics and starts calling her irresponsible, and the lady just laughs because she doesn't see any problem at all. She's just glad she can leave the room and attend the event. Hannah tries to make it clear that they have one problem. The girl doesn't know the rules of etiquette at all. And if someone notices this at the banquet, everything will become clear. And this is exactly what needs to be feared, and something should be done about it. Nothing bad has happened yet, but the assistant is already intimidating that even if the girl learns manners in such a short time, they still won't be able to fool the royal family. Ivy is trying to say that she will think of something, because inside she has no feeling at all that something bad awaits her today, rather the opposite. Of course, we can only hope that this will be the case, but it still wouldn't hurt to prepare. She needs to know at least some information about the real princess. They both understand that only a miracle can make it all work out, but there is no other choice. The decision has been made. Now they will have to figure it out. It would seem that they have already come to terms with this situation, but Hannah starts to cry. She must have been very scared. The assistant is very worried because everything happened at the wrong time. If he had arrived at least a couple of days later, it would have been better. Instead of being sad too, the girl calmly asked her assistant to help her put on her dress. Meanwhile, the event is already in full swing. Guests are starting to arrive and the hall already smells of delicious food, of which there is more and more. The chefs did a great job today, especially with the presentation, which was simply amazing. For everyone else, this evening will pass calmly and pleasantly. But for at least 2 people, it will be exactly the opposite. It's good that the real princess doesn't know what's going on in the castle today. It's probably for the best. Ivy is already sitting in her place in a dress, with her hair done, with makeup, and so far everything is going more or less according to plan. It so happened that there was a butler next to her who suddenly began to greet Mr. Oscar and showed him to his place. The girl was a little confused because she had heard that the crown prince's name was Vincent, but definitely not Oscar. This guy comes up to her and she is completely confused because she no longer understands who is who. Oscar greeted her and said he was glad to meet her for the first time. And when he called her by name Irene, she was a little surprised at first, but then she remembered that she was actually pretending to be someone else. They got to know each other a little, and after that, he started saying that it wasn't for nothing that Vincent praised her so much that his mouth started to water. These words made her feel awkward. After all, she rarely gets such compliments. And in the meantime, someone else approached them. Someone turned to the guy and asked him to stop teasing her sister. Even the girl turned around to see what kind of relative this was. The guy says that he missed her very much and hadn't seen her for a while, but she became even more beautiful than the last time they met. Everything would be fine, but he also whispered a strange phrase, "Come closer and show me your face," as if he knows something. Naturally, the lady became very tense because he was very strange and she no longer felt comfortable around him. She has no idea what it means and what he wants to say with this phrase, which sounds too ambiguous. She already started to think that someone should come to help because she couldn't cope on her own. Moreover, it is very difficult to talk to people when she doesn't even know the names of her relatives. Only now the girl realized that it seemed that this was the same brother who had arrived after a long time. This just explained why he wanted to look at her face so much. If she had figured this out earlier, she wouldn't have gotten so nervous. But now she'll have to calm down a little, but not too much after all. There's a whole evening ahead of her. And if so much happened in a couple of minutes, it means that something similar could happen before the end of the event. The girl decided that no matter what, she would try to squeeze the most out of herself, especially since she had dreamed of becoming an actress as a child. Here she has the opportunity to prove herself. The main thing is not to overdo it, otherwise it will only get worse. The lady tries to maintain a dialogue with him, says that it has been a long time since they have seen each other, and that she is very happy that he is now standing in front of her in good health and so beautiful. And he looked at her as if she had confused him with someone else, thereby frightening her again. Ivy doesn't understand what she did wrong anymore, because everything sounded normal, and it's strange that he looks at her like that. Hannah also reacted as if she had called the wrong person her brother. If this is so, then it will be very bad. It is unlikely that such a situation can be corrected. And he is silent, and as if he is deliberately testing her patience, she still cannot understand what is going on. The lady deliberately says nothing more so as not to aggravate the situation and waits for him to say something. It turns out that she didn't confuse him with anyone else. He was just not used to her voice, and he behaved like that because he was shy. He hasn't been to such events for a long time, where there are a lot of people who also look at him from different sides, as if he is the star of the evening and want to be like that. Then the guy asked if she had received a photo from the sea. The girl replied that she had seen everything, and so far she was doing a good job of pretending as if she had actually received a letter from him. Although in fact I have no idea when it was, what was inside it, and what it is talking about. Meanwhile, that Oscar came up to them again. He says that the sea is of course good, but if we talk about the stars, then in this country they are no worse. In the north, if you are lucky with the weather, you can see the beautiful northern lights. But even his magnificence cannot compare with the beauty of Princess Irene, and that was already very pleasant. It looks like the guys at this event will boost her self-esteem quite well. It will be just right for her. And then suddenly the man laughed throughout the entire hall and said, "What a beautiful picture." He means the 3 he sees in front of him. Vincent remembered that he had little contact with his father, And judging by these words, his grandfather understood that the man here was the king and also her father. It's just better not to approach him. Although, considering his attitude towards his daughter, even if there was another girl in the girl's place who was even less like his daughter, he still wouldn't notice anything. So there's nothing to be particularly afraid of. Oscar thanked His Majesty for inviting him to this event. The man asked to be without formalities, and then said that not only the prince and princess, but also everyone gathered here looked happy, so he was also pleased and, at the end, apologized for interfering in the conversation of the young. The guy says that he doesn't think so at all, because the opportunity to meet His Majesty and the wonderful princess like this was worth coming from faraway lands. He even regrets that he didn't come earlier. After this, the man says that it seems that someone has taken a liking to his daughter, and immediately after this, a very serious question is asked whether Oscar is ready to accept Irene as the queen of a powerful state. Or he can only give compliments that are not supported by any serious intentions. While they are talking about it, the girl goes crazy because she understands that if she agrees, he can set up the princess, and if she refuses, he can also set her up because he does not know how she would act in this situation. Grand Portria, a natural fortress surrounded on all sides by rugged mountain ranges. Therefore, for a long time it was free to reject other countries. But recently the situation in neighboring empires has become very suspicious. If they manage to form an alliance with the north, which is ruled by Rubios, they will gain enormous military power, and this alone will be enough to contain the neighboring countries. Meanwhile, the guy says that the king is very kind. Although he is full of desire to talk to the princess, the main hero of the celebration today is his close friend Vincent, and first of all, he would like to congratulate him on his return. To which the man replied that everything was correct, the principal was right, and his son probably wanted to raise a toast immediately, so he asked everyone to prepare their glasses. Meanwhile, the event was long over. Hannah led her temporary mistress into the room and admitted that she was amazed. The girl is lying on the bed and asking how she surprised her assistant, although in fact she has no strength for these conversations. After all these people have tired her out a little. Hannah recalled her behavior at the banquet and at the table. Everything was impeccable. There was nothing to find fault with. She doesn't understand how the lady could have learned such refined manners in the slums. To which the girl asked what benefit she would get from telling her this, but then agreed to talk about it anyway. The thing is that her mother taught her this a long time ago. She was a courtesan, but she said that in her youth she worked in a castle. The woman always said that her daughter was a princess and that someday people from there would definitely come for her. So when this separate one becomes, she asked her in no case not to miss her chance to someday return to her rightful place. The girl also said that everyone in the village despised her mother, although she herself as a child considered her simply an unhappy woman. I thought that my mother had simply gone crazy, unable to forget her experience of working in a luxurious castle in the past. So I considered her words about someone coming for her to be empty words. The girl tried to do everything she said, but she didn't seriously believe that these skills could ever be useful to her. But now she is in the royal palace as a princess, and without these skills, everything could have been much worse. So this is the first situation where she remembered her mother's efforts and is truly grateful to her. After that, the lady said that such an experience does not happen every day, so she intends to play the role of Princess Irene perfectly. At this point, she suggested ending the boring stories and asked to prepare a warm bath for her. Firstly, she was very tired, and secondly, she was going to take advantage of all the comforts of this temporary, luxurious life. Meanwhile, the girl got bored. She decided to go outside for a walk, but she didn't take into account the fact that, in fact, it's not that simple. The assistant, as soon as she found out that the lady had left without her, immediately ran after her to explain that this was not done. She screams that she can't go outside without permission and gets angry that she just doesn't hear her. As if nothing had happened, the girl stretches and says that Hannah is being too noisy, and then asks if she is really suggesting that she sit locked in the room in such good weather. An argument started that this was the agreement from the very beginning, and if someone had listened carefully, there would have been no problem. After the assistant yelled a little and spoke her mind, the temporary princess says that she understood everything, but still does not intend to return to the room. She admires the roses, compares herself to them, The lady gets distracted and accidentally scratches herself so hard that she starts bleeding. She had rarely touched flowers before, so she didn't expect there to be so many thorns on it and that they would be so sharp. And then it started while Hannah was trying to calm the lady down. A guy saw them, who of course didn't pass by. While there was time, the assistant explained that this was Sir Rex. You can call him by the name Leo. As soon as the girl found out, she started talking to him as if nothing had happened. She asks him how the weather is today, but he reacts a little differently than she expected. Then he comes closer to her. Everything happens so quickly that the girl doesn't even have time to react. And she also managed to notice his displeased look, which appeared exactly from the moment he managed to take a closer look at her. She asks what he is doing because she feels hurt and scared, especially since she barely knows this person. And then the question sounds, who is she? And looking into those eyes, the only thing she wants is to just hide somewhere or fall through the ground. And in the meantime, Irene also woke up. Only her morning was a little different from how it was in the castle. And make an umbrage Siri. The girl quickly got herself in order, and the first thing she decided to do was what she had been restricted from doing before. She was walking down the street, saw a man who was busy with something, and offered to help. The girl just wanted to do a good deed, but he drove her away and asked her to do her own thing. He immediately spoiled the impression of the new life. It is unusual for him for someone to treat her like that. She feels like an ordinary person here. The lady felt the reality in which absolutely all people live, except for their royal family, in order to earn authority here. You need to do a lot, because only in this way will a person be treated with at least a little respect. Pasarsinting. In this village, everyone is dissatisfied with the country, and they say about the royal family and aristocrats that they only care about their own. In fact, she understands them, because soon she herself will become like everyone else in such conditions. Because this is not life, but some kind of survival. Irene decided that when she returned to the castle, the first thing she would do would be to report this problem, although it was possible that everyone already knew about it, but was keeping quiet simply because it didn't concern them. The girl walks down the street and imagines how hard it is for Ivy to live here, and how good it must be for her now in the castle. She wants Ivy to rule the castle in peace and quiet for at least a short time. It's just a pity that she can't give this opportunity to all people, but only to one person. Here she is already back, decided to light the fire, but there is too little wood, not enough even to make a small fire. She can't chop them herself, so she thought of using something else instead of firewood, for example. These old books, they look all dusty, and probably no one needs them. Irene opened this book, started to look at what it was about, but her conscience started to gnaw at her a little, because it was somehow wrong. She can't just burn someone else's book, even if it looks like no one needs it. Suddenly, some leaf falls out of there, and it's also full of holes as if someone shot at it. The girl was surprised because she had never seen anything like that in books. It could mean that the leaflet was hidden on purpose. And then the most interesting thing happens. She turns the sheet of paper over and realizes that it was a photograph. And her mother is also depicted on it. It's such a coincidence that at first Irene even thought that she was hallucinating something. Meanwhile, the showdown in the castle is just beginning. The guy seemed to see that in front of him is not a real princess. Leo persistently asks who she is, and she already wants to turn into a ghost and go somewhere so as not to ruin anything. She is afraid to talk to him. She is already starting to panic, and in general, she imagined it somehow simpler than it turned out to be in reality. And then the assistant joins in. She understands that without her, everything will be very bad. She says that they can explain everything. But surprisingly, the girl hints to her that she can handle it herself, although she was just so scared, as if she was about to lose consciousness. And then it starts. Ivy is indignant that Leonardo allows himself to do this, and also says that she doesn't know what he was imagining there. Then asks if he really means to say that she, the Princess of Gramportria, looks like someone else in his eyes. She got into the role so much that he has already changed in relation to her, although perhaps he is just thinking about what to answer. A few seconds passed, and now he is already apologizing to her on his knees. He realized that it was terribly rude of him, and promises to do anything. If only she would forgive him and forget this situation, for which he will now always be terribly ashamed. Then he just ran away as fast as he could. Hannah, for some reason, tried to stop him, but she couldn't. It was a very strange situation. Now it's not even clear whether everything ended well or not. Probably when the assistant starts talking, everything will become clear. And now she's already asking if Ivy understands what she's done. Because he was the only person she could be honest with, he had to know that the princess was waiting for him in the slums. Otherwise, she would remain there alone. After that, for some reason, the girl began to remind about Hannah's sick younger brother, as if it had something to do with this situation. The assistant asks how she knows about this because she doesn't remember telling anyone about it except the lady, who certainly wouldn't tell this to a stranger she's known for no more than a few days. And also in general, you can notice that the girl behaves very confidently, and you can't say that she spent so little time in the role of a princess. She says that she heard something about Hannah from other maids. They say that the assistant used to be a noble lady, to which Hannah replied that it was a long time ago. It was the collapse of their family, an unfortunate and sad incident. But thanks to the grace of the kind princess who saved her once, she now has the honor of working and serving in the palace itself. Suddenly the girl asks how sincere these feelings are, and also acts as if she is hinting at something and did not just start talking about it. The assistant looks at her in complete bewilderment because she does not understand what all this means and where it is all heading. Then the question came, since Hannah came to the castle, every time her brother fell ill, the so-called princess did something for her. And she also says that the brother and sister live apart. The younger one is alone waiting for his sister, who works from morning till night. The medicines are expensive, and he has never received proper treatment. Is this really called help for which one should be grateful? The girl continued that the assistant suffers from anxiety every day, and also asked if she had ever accidentally thought how pathetic she looks, being unable to do anything. After that, she started touching her hair and promised to get rid of some problems. But judging from this, it is still not clear what it means. Ivy decided to visit Hannah's brother and introduce him to a personal doctor, as well as provide him with the best medicines. And in return, she only wants to ask that Hannah not push away with her own hands the chance that will result in the two of them being happy. To make sure that they understood each other correctly, the girl finally asked who she was to her, and the assistant answered that now the real first princess of Grand Portria was standing in front of her. As soon as they started talking about it, the weather outside got really bad. A thunderstorm appeared and the sky became cloudy in a matter of seconds. Meanwhile, Leonardo walks through the rain, steps on puddles but doesn't notice it because in his head the question is, how could he have made a mistake? The girl so cunningly convinced him that he had offended her and that she was a real princess, that now he was ashamed in front of her. His heart tells him that something is wrong, but his mind says that he has disgraced himself and has greatly offended the princess. The guy doesn't understand why he feels like something is wrong. He has a feeling like everything is not as it seems at first glance. Meanwhile, the prince and his friend are standing by the window. They are looking at this downpour and do not notice how they begin to quarrel. One says that he hates thunderstorms and would rather just stay home, and the other one doesn't understand how he can say that, and also suggested that Vincent, just in case, go out into the rain to cool his head, because it seems to him that someone needs it now. Vincent really doesn't like such jokes. The guy asks how to understand this. And at that moment, Leonardo comes up to them. He was all wet, but still, as he promised, he came to them, although a little later than necessary. The guy apologized for being late and promised that next time he would come on time no matter what. Vincent says that's enough, because since he's already here, there's no need for formalities. And then he turns to Oscar and tells him that this guy is the captain of the knightly order, Leonardo Rex, and he's also the best swordsman. Leo decided to introduce himself. He said that it was an honor to meet him and that he was very sorry that he couldn't show up earlier. Oscar never showed for a second that it was mutual. He looks at him and doesn't intend to say anything in response. Only after a while he approached him and said that in appearance, the guy seemed like a brave warrior, capable of defeating 1,000 enemies alone. But in his soul, fear and doubts were raging. At least that's what he felt from him right now. Not the most pleasant words that could be said at a meeting. And after that, Oscar asked if he understood correctly that now the guy's heart was tormented by great anxiety. Vincent decided to save the situation a little. He asked how Oscar could behave like this, because in front of him was the captain of the knightly order, so it was natural that he was always tense. After that, the guy explained that he just wanted to tell Leonardo to be honest with his feelings because the people of their northern country trust their intuition and never waver. And he also promised to pray that the night would only become stronger, although at first his words sounded as if he was hinting that they would never be able to communicate, much less support each other. Leonardo didn't have time to respond to this because Vincent noticed that the rain had stopped outside and began to rejoice about it so loudly that it was impossible to shout him down. On this occasion, he even invited Leonardo to have a drink with them, although he should have stopped by now. While Vincent was in such a good mood, the guy took the opportunity to ask if he had noticed anything strange in the princess's behavior at yesterday's banquet. Vincent asked why such a sudden question, because in his opinion, his sister was as beautiful as a flower as always. The guy thanked him for these words, although in fact, this answer could not have been given to him at all. Meanwhile, the real princess is sitting by some fence and is very worried because a lot of time has passed since the promised day, and Leonardo still hasn't come to her. In fact, she is very lucky that he is one of the few who noticed something strange, and something inside tells him that the princess who was at the event is not quite real. She even wondered what if she explained this whole situation to the guards. Would they believe her or not, because she really doubted it. She didn't think about it for long. One of the guards noticed her. He asked what she was doing here. At first, the girl was very scared, but then she pulled herself together and tried not to show it. He ordered her to follow him to check who she was, but it is not yet clear whether this is for the best or not. It turns out that she was caught. Now she has a choice, to obediently go with him or to come up with something before it's too late. If there is a big fuss because there are two princesses, one of them will probably be declared a criminal and severely punished. But if only the girl knew that Ivy is not as good as she thinks. In the end, she decided that this had to be avoided at all costs. Fortunately, thanks to the hood, her face was completely invisible, and the guard did not have time to notice who she really was. Irene, out of fear, could think of nothing better to do than find a big stone and throw it right at his head. She apologized to him in advance, although it is even strange. But in such a state, it is not even surprising. Only she didn't come up with the point that a person actually has a suit that protects him from such attacks. He started chasing her without any problems, and she noticed it and panicked even more. Because if he caught her, something terrible would start. She won't even be able to prove to him that she is a real princess and that the girl who is now on the territory is a complete stranger. It will sound like she has gone crazy. Moreover, Ivy has already planned something and is unlikely to admit that she is an ordinary person. At least she will try to stay in the castle as long as possible. Here the girl already notices that the guard is swinging his sword at her and understands that the situation has gotten a little out of control. She underestimated him a little. Now she needs to either somehow dodge or run away from him very quickly. But because of this, she can't do either. At the moment when he had already caught up with her, and it seemed that her end was about to come, at that moment a miracle happened. A man appears who came to protect her. It remains to be hoped that he will succeed, and he will not be late. His appearance in the area even made birds fly up because the guy's energy is felt everywhere. Even the birds could sense it. Meanwhile, he shouted what was going on here. What kind of antics were these, and with whose permission did the guard start a fight and draw his sword? He began to justify himself, saying that the gentleman had misunderstood everything. But he was so surprised that he did not have enough words to say everything he wanted. Suddenly, Leonardo felt a flutter in his chest. He literally felt that she was near, and he is also sure that he did not imagine it. He started running around to find her, which means that the girl hid, probably afraid that he would also react so angrily to her. Leonardo promised himself that until he saw her, he would not leave, even if he spent the whole night there. He has no doubt that she is somewhere nearby, that she was definitely her. Even if the princess ran away, he will not change his mind. He even mentally addressed her that she was afraid of him in vain. He felt her energy so much that he didn't even think that it seemed to him. As a result, a whole week has passed since then. Leo still hasn't shown up, so the girl thinks that something happened in the castle. She doesn't want to make the situation worse, so she decided to sit quietly. But it would be better if she looked around at that moment. She was attacked by some boy. He threw a stone at her, accusing her of being the devil, and that his grandfather was sick because of her. He screams so loudly that she can't even shout him down and ask him something. It's strange why he behaves like this, because she sees him for the first time. She could only now ask what exactly she was guilty of, because according to him, nothing was clear. The boy tells how she stole some chicken. Because of this, his grandfather went to bed, and now he can't buy medicine. And after that, he once again called her a criminal. It turns out that Ivy was not accused for nothing, and that day she simply robbed someone once again, or rather tried to do it. These are the problems the girl left to the man who gave her the opportunity to live a luxurious life. In the end, she had to somehow get out of it. She asked the boy if she could look at his grandfather now because maybe she could come up with something and help him. He clearly didn't expect this from her. And of course he agreed because this was the only chance for his grandfather. For some time it seemed to him that she was deceiving him and had something planned. But for now everything was going smoothly, and with each passing minute he was becoming less wary. Irene immediately noticed that the man had a high fever. The only good thing is that this is not a disease that cannot be cured. It's just a pity that the money she received from the assistant was almost gone. But if you don't start treatment as soon as possible, he really could die. So it's very serious. To begin with, she asked the boy to wait a little, because now she needed to think everything over carefully so as not to act rashly. Irene only came up with the idea of going to a pawn shop because it was the only way to get money quickly. The employee immediately responded to her with a smile. She didn't even have time to step through the door. She already received a sea of compliments. At first she was a little embarrassed, but then she thought that she didn't have time for this and immediately got down to business. The girl wants to sell this necklace. She said that it was a thing of a very noble person, and she made sure to mention that she did not steal anything. The man asks where she got this decoration, and she answers that, unfortunately, she cannot answer this question. Then she remembered that they also sell medicines here, so she asked them to sell her everything from this list with the money she earned. Everything happened very quickly. She even forgot to say goodbye. She ran back very quickly because there really is little time. There simply isn't any. The man was surprised that she not only knew how to write, but also had knowledge in the field of pharmaceuticals. He had never met such people here before. For him, it is very curious, and he also said a strange phrase. Supposedly, in the near future, it will not be boring. It's not clear yet what this means. The main thing is that he doesn't have bad intentions towards her because the girl has enough problems without him. Returning home to these people, she prepared everything and warned them in advance that if they needed help, they should trust her and do everything she said. The two of them agreed, after which Irene advised to take this medicine every day after meals, and it would also be good if grandfather did not strain himself too much. She also wrote down all the dosages and times of taking it here, so that when she left, they would not have any questions. Uvan didn't expect this from her. Now he's a little ashamed of how he treated her earlier, although she actually understands him. Suddenly she remembers that he most likely can't read, and there is a small problem with that. She had only one idea to teach him simple letters, and he, like any other child, as soon as he heard that he needed to learn something, immediately got angry. He says that he is not going to study anything, and in general he has neither time nor desire for it. In that case, she will have to come up with something else. The main thing is not to waste time, but it seems that out of the two of them, only she understands this. Meanwhile, the fake princess is enjoying her new life to the fullest. Only it seems that she is doing everything to ensure that such a life is not temporary, but becomes permanent. So far, there are only hints of this, but Hannah already notices everything and very much doubts that Ivy is a good person. She even stopped treating the staff with respect when the assistant hinted that it was time to stop with drinks for today. The lady asks how a servant dares to contradict a princess, and she also called her a servant who has no right to tell her mistress what to do, hinting that next time she won't ignore it. In the evening, the girl wanted to go out into the fresh air and asked Hannah to stay here because she wanted to be alone. It got cool towards evening after a hot and long day. This is what any person needs to be happy. She just stepped outside and immediately started thinking about how she had lived her whole life in torment because of the royal family, and now she was going to make them pay for it. At the very least, she was going to enjoy all the benefits of her life while she was here. She even had a dream that this country would disappear, that a new one would appear in its place, and ideally that she would rule it. Then she mentally wished Princess Irene good night and good luck. because she wanted her to need it, for the girl to repay for all her wonderful years and feel for herself how people live outside the palace. It is impossible to predict where this is all heading, but one thing is clear. Irene made a mistake by letting this girl into the castle grounds. Ivy thought she would be alone here. She heard some sounds, thought that her assistant had come to her, and was about to yell at her. But then she looked to the side in time, saw Oscar, who was glad to see her, and began to talk about the night sky, which he likes to enjoy every evening. She barely recognized him because she had not yet had time to get used to the new people in her circle, of whom there were more than she expected. And then he said that she really was very similar to her brother, and also that she probably knew it herself. The girl replied that she hears this very often, and also tried to smile, but instead of a sweet laugh, she got something strange. And what he replied was that it wasn't really a compliment. He wanted to say that he and Vincent, being brother and sister, both smelled like wine, and that it was sickeningly disgusting. She certainly didn't expect this from him. The girl, for some reason, thought that everyone here adored her. And then this. She asked how to understand this. What kind of rudeness is this? And he says that he recently met Leonard. He was incredibly pure and righteous, a worthy captain of the knightly order, raised in the royal castle. And in his eyes, he saw something like unshakable faith. And meanwhile, the princess does not quite understand what he means. She asks in a very anxious voice what he is hinting at, because she has completely stopped understanding him and does not want to figure out these strange hints. It fit duam. To which I received the answer, I deftly decipher other people's plans, movements, poses. All this can be learned if you practice. But the unique aura of a person, his facial expressions, as well as the smallest details in all this traces of the life lived inevitably remain, and this is something that an outsider can never fake. At the first banquet where they met, the girl was perfection itself, a princess herself, but in her he noticed an undisguised baseness. Others may be deceived, but his eyes are not deceived. And then he laughed, asked her not to worry because he had no intention of ranting about something that no one should know. After that, he openly called her a fake princess, and for some reason suggested that she join forces with him. He needs this in order to take over this country together and get benefits, because it seems like all the stars have aligned for this, and they have a great opportunity to do this, if of course she is interested in this. Meanwhile, the real princess still persuaded the boy to learn to read and write, because it would be useful to him in the future anyway, and especially in the near future. He has to do it for his grandfather. Even his friend came to them, who also decided not to lag behind. The girl is very happy that they have some results. It could have been better, but considering the fact that Yvonne resisted at the beginning, it's not bad. After some time, she went outside with her grandfather and started asking how he was feeling. She didn't expect to hear anything very good, when suddenly the man boasted that he had almost completely recovered, and then asked if the rumors were true that she was teaching children in the village to read and write. According to him, she looks young, but already has such education and charm, and judging by the fact that she is well-versed in medicines, she must be serving in a good house. She answered him that she had once studied medicine herself. Apparently, she doesn't want to rush and doesn't tell who she really is, so as not to say too much and then regret it. She could only tell that her precious friend's younger brother had an incurable disease, so she had to learn even more about everything related to medicine. And she also said that Hannah didn't have anyone to lean on, and she was all alone. The girl just remembered about her assistant. She became interested in how she was doing and began to mentally apologize for delaying the time a little. Although right now she could be busy saving her brother. And she didn't even notice how she started crying. But for the man it was very strange, so he asked what happened. He thought that he had somehow offended her or said something wrong, but she immediately explained that this was not so and apologized for being overly emotional. Irene said she just remembered the people dear to her for a moment and asked him not to pay attention. Right after that, the man noticed her scarf. He even asked where she got it from because it didn't look like something you could buy anywhere. She said that she had found him herself when she had a lot of time and thanked him for appreciating her efforts. Meanwhile, in her room, the fake princess found those same scarves that she had in her closet and started calling them bad taste. For her, they are nothing more than ridiculous things, Hannah is trying to ask her not to touch other people's things without asking, but the girl has recently begun to perceive everything that is here as her property. She openly demonstrates this and does not ask whether someone likes it or not. But for now, the personal assistant suffers the most from this. She knew it from the very beginning, warned the lady. Apparently, she felt that this is how it would turn out. As soon as she mentioned Irene and called her mistress, Ivy's face immediately changed, probably because Hannah should only call her mistress. The girl just threw the scarf on the floor, pressed it with her foot, and asked him to come to his senses because it was too much. The lady reminded that the only person the assistant could call her mistress was standing right in front of her. And she also says that she is already sick of the smell of the previous owner of this room. She does not even specifically mention her name, and also casually hints at shopping. Because she recently rummaged through her entire wardrobe, but didn't find a single outfit to her taste. Although no one told her that she would be here for so long to think about clothes, and also no one here owes her anything like that. One might think that she had already begun to cross all boundaries, but this was only the beginning. After a while, the girl ordered to throw out all the things from the closet simply because she was sure that the real princess would never return here again, and she would remain here to rule forever. Then they heard some steps in the corridor. It turns out it was Leonardo walking. I wonder what he forgot here. In fact, he was just passing by, and the fake princess specially went out into the corridor to seem to accidentally meet him. She dressed up, her assistant helped her do her hair and makeup, but she herself felt disgusted every time she touched her. She finds it terribly unpleasant to look at this fake smile. Probably if Hannah has the opportunity to return her real mistress, she will take advantage of it immediately. But for now, she is forced to endure and listen to this man. Meanwhile, the fake princess keeps smiling at the guy, telling him how happy she is to see him, but it's hard to tell that it's mutual. At some point, the girl notices that he is not listening to her at all. As if he is in the clouds, she politely hinted to him that she is a little offended. He started to apologize and then said that he suddenly had an urgent matter, so he had to leave right now. The girl asked what's wrong with him. At first, she thought he was handsome and nice, but now he turned out to be taciturn and not at all cheerful. Since Leonardo left, Ivy suggested to go show the dress to Oscar because she thinks he should appreciate it. At least that's what she would like. It turns out that at this time, Vincent is already looking for him. He can't find him anywhere and has no idea where the guy could have gone. He has already started jumping and skipping along the corridor out of boredom, talking to himself, and doesn't even suspect that Leonardo came up to him and just saw something strange from the side. The guy slowly approached, specifically to laugh at him. And so it happened. Vincent fell off his feet in surprise and began to complain that they had already agreed before that Leonardo would always warn before coming. Instead of slowly getting to the point of the conversation, Leonardo immediately began to speak directly that lately he had stopped trusting himself. Vincent realized that now he needed his support, or at least a person who would listen to him, and that's what he would do now. The guy asked if he understood correctly that it was all because of Irene, and he replied that he, as always, was reading his mind. Vincent says that Leonardo is like an open book. Everything is written on his face, and admitted that, to be honest, he has also noticed his sister's strange behavior lately. He personally observes how lately she has been buying expensive dresses every month, and unlike before, she wears flashy jewelry. Even her preferences in fragrances are completely opposite to what she had before, and that already says something. Leonardo just wanted to say something about this. The guy stopped him and also reminded him that this is the royal palace, and he himself should know that here you need to watch your language. And after that, he also said that the girl was already an adult, just as a doll turns into a butterfly, so a person cannot always remain the same. It seems to him that they should just watch her from the side, and if she asks for help, then they will be able to advise or help. At this point, their conversation ended. The guy understood everything, said goodbye, and calmly left, still lost in his thoughts. Vincent looks at him from the window and thinks that Leonardo Rex is the one without whom the country cannot exist, and he cannot lose him. Meanwhile, Leonardo approached Hannah with a request that she help him with something, and preferably right now. He needs a portrait of Princess Irene. The girl asks why he suddenly needs it, to which he replies that he wants to hang it in the training hall to raise the morale of the knights. And he also says that even the smallest one will reach. Just any but only if it is her portrait. The assistant is in no hurry to help him. She tries to explain that he is the commander of the knightly order, so he should know that he cannot just take out portraits of someone from the royal family. Besides, as far as she knew, there was already an image of His Majesty hanging in the hall. This was the last argument, after which the guy apologized for wasting her time and asked to consider it as if this conversation had never happened and he hadn't asked her for anything, after which he calmly left without even saying goodbye. It was somehow very strange. The girl doesn't even know what to think about it because he never said why he needed it. This fake, meanwhile, does not stop enjoying all the benefits of her life, which Irene stupidly provided to her. The assistant said that the leopard was looking for her portrait, but with the message that she had a bad feeling because maybe the guy suspected her and wanted to check. At first, the girl was happy that Leonardo wanted to admire her, but when she realized that everything was a little different than she thought, she almost yelled at her assistant for telling her such a thing. Hannah tries to explain that if Sister Rex finds out or finds the real princess, she might be in trouble. At that moment, the girl breaks the mirror and says that she has something to say about this, and she asked her to listen carefully. The village where she lived was the most disadvantaged place in the empire, and after that, she asked the girl how hard it had been for her to live there all her life. And if she has no idea, then she can describe it something like this. It's a hole where you have to fight for existence. Ivy knew from day one that Hannah didn't want the girl to show up here in the first place. But from now on, they'll have to be friends. Otherwise, someone will get into trouble. She hints at this very carefully so as not to quarrel and not to waste her precious energy on the conflict. Meanwhile, the commander came to his protege, who greeted him as expected and asked how he could help. This guy's name is Santos. He is, so to say, Leonardo's right hand, and when needed, he always helps him out. The guy recalled how the knight always said that he wanted to become the commander of the knightly order, and since he was leaving for a while today and leaving his post, then he is glad to give him the opportunity to be in this place while he is not here. He actually offers him to replace him as commander. Naturally, no one can be prepared for this. It is clear that he is not even going to refuse. Such an offer sounded like a gift. He is very pleased that his commander chose him as his deputy. It is a very great honor. Leonardo is going to start looking for a portrait. It would be very good if he found at least one, and he has no time at all. He is in a hurry so as not to waste a second. He is one of the few who feels that there is not a real princess in the place of the princess now. Although he has no evidence, he is sure for himself that it is not Irene in the castle. He intends to return her even without the painting, to find her anywhere in this world, no matter what it costs him. As soon as he arrived in this village, he immediately found himself in the center of attention. The people here are so rude that they immediately surrounded him and began to discuss out loud every part of his body. Everyone became interested in what the gentleman was doing in the village, because he had never been here before. And if the guy had appeared here, it was only in transit. He feels very awkward from all these looks. He feels how different these people are, in contrast to those with whom he is used to communicating. There are so many people here that he even thought that today was some kind of holiday or a day when it was customary to go outside. And then he comes to some small shop where they sell different scarves. The saleswoman advises him to buy something. And he looks at this scarf and understands that he has seen something like this somewhere before, and literally exactly the same. The girl says that this scarf is the most popular among women in this region. She invites him to look at the embroidery, which is simply so charming that there are no words to describe it. His thoughts at that moment, I've seen this somewhere before. The guy even sniffed the handkerchief and smelled a familiar smell, which also alerted him. After that, the girl started telling him that if he was a fan of such unusual purchases, he could go to an antique shop nearby at the end of the street. And she also warned that the owner is a bit of a strange and eccentric person, but he has a lot of valuable things brought from all over the world. Leonardo thought that if he had many different clients, then he could probably find some clue from the princess, and that would be at least some information. He didn't regret coming to this market naturally. He thanked for the tip and decided not to waste time. Only at the end he bought the same scarf that he had already held in his hands. He couldn't part with it. Meanwhile, the guy's already entering this place, and here is the same seller to whom the girl recently went. This may mean that the guy is already much closer to the solution, because at least he has stepped on the right path. The man greeted the visitor. He addresses everyone with such a smile. Only if you look at him from the outside, it does not inspire confidence at all, and even makes you a little nervous. Leo felt that strange energy from him that he was warned about, but that's not the main thing now. The man immediately assessed the visitor's clothes and jewelry and realized that he was an aristocrat, and then decided to see what he wanted to sell here. Leonardo presented the portrait and without any greetings said that he was looking for this man, and then asked if the man had seen anyone similar. He reacted very strangely, as if he saw there not the features of a person's face, but some incomprehensible child's drawing. The guy says he can't reveal the details, but this person is very important to him, and he would be very grateful for help, even a little. The shop owner laughed at this art, which embarrassed the guy so much that he barely restrained himself from being rude. Since they've already gotten so hooked, the man isn't going to keep quiet either. He hints that they're not doing avant-garde art here, and Leonardo asks how dare he treat a man like that who came to him with a request. The owner immediately calmed down. He explained that it was just his sense of humor, and of course, he would be happy to help find anyone. Only before that, he also wants to ask him for something, namely to show a little of his sincerity. Leonardo realized that they were just trying to make fun of him, so he pushed him away and went to look for the princess somewhere else. The man started to stop him as soon as he could. He realized that he had gone a little too far, so he was ready to apologize for everything said above. The guy still doesn't turn around, and at the very last moment the information was heard that in fact, a girl with the same hair color as on the piece of paper that Leo just showed had recently come to them. She sold him this necklace. The merchant quickly managed to interest the guy. Now he is in no hurry and is ready to stay for some more information. He asked to give him this necklace and explained how important it was for him, that without it he would simply never leave here. Meanwhile, the temporary commander has a hard time dealing with his subordinates. They don't listen to him and don't take him seriously. They ask him who he thinks he is. They say that even the real captain will sulk, and only then will they do something. Words and convey how Santos is offended by this. He does not feel a drop of power or at least any respect from them. The real commander comes just in time. He overheard this whole situation for a short time and came to sort it out, unexpectedly. But he even praised his protege for his good work, saying that while he was gone, he had gone through a lot. Although he had not managed to subjugate anyone, at least he had not given up, and that was commendable. The knights began to rejoice that their commander had finally returned. They called him irreplaceable and that there was no one better than him. Then he asked for Vincent if anyone had seen him by chance, to which everyone replied that he had not come here. Leo realized that it looked like he would have to turn the entire castle upside down again, and after that, he asked for help from that same merchant who apparently came here with him. I wonder how this happened and what conditions they agreed on, because it would hardly be interesting to him just like that. The commander must have offered him something that was practically impossible to refuse. Meanwhile, the real Irene has found something to do in the boring village. She has already made so many of these scarves that they can be sold. She does this all day long, doesn't notice how time flies. For her, it's a kind of calming, because nothing else gives her such an effect. Marie is sitting next to her. She was just talking to her, but the girl was thinking about her own things and didn't hear her. Irene apologized for getting distracted and promised that it would never happen again. She really felt a little awkward in front of her. It turns out the girl just thought that most likely Irene didn't sleep all night today either. Only she addresses her as Ivy because she doesn't know that the two girls have switched places. Although her friend is a little worried about her, she does not deny the fact that thanks to Irene, or as she thinks Ivy, the villagers learned to embroider, and she herself was able to relax. But she is really very worried that sooner or later, the girl will overwork herself and fall off her feet. She asks how long this will continue, because she herself will suddenly not be able to cope and will not survive if something happens to her friend. She embroiders in the heat and in whatever condition she is in, but you can't do that. In any business, you need rest, even if it seems that the person is sitting still and not straining much. The thing is that it is highly concentrated, and one way or another, it still works. Although not as much as with physical exertion, but still, Marie accidentally made a mistake. The problem is that you have to dissolve everything and do it again, and this takes a lot of time. Irene begins to notice that lately she is beginning to be afraid. What if she let a person into her life who will use it in a way that they did not agree on? About a month ago, when she last spoke to that grandfather, they somehow started talking about making money off of her talent. He told her that in his entire life, he had never seen such magnificent embroidery that would please the eye. Just at that moment, he had an offer for her. He did not have his own store to start selling, but he was going to give out scarves to the villagers as a token of gratitude, if of course the lady did not mind her time. The idea was that her hobby could be used to both earn money and do charity work because everyone would benefit from it. Her scarves can be used to please villagers at affordable prices and also given away for free to those who don't have any extra money. He didn't ask her to make a decision quickly. He gave her the opportunity to think, and just in case, he warned that if she didn't have too much time, then he could handle sales and distribution. Since she had no business here, of course, the girl was really doing anything as long as it was useful. After a while, the man sold several scarves at a good price, although he initially asked for less, but people are willing to pay 2, 3, or even 5 times more for such masterpieces. He brought all the proceeds to Irene, and thus showed how important it was for him to show her that he was grateful for everything she did for him. And if the business gets going, he is ready to work for her for a symbolic fee and will not demand a penny for the idea. After some time, some girl burst into the room. She warned that she was leaving and asked if Irene is staying here. The lady asks who she is because she doesn't understand what's going on, and the girl says she had to try really hard to meet her. She explained that she came about the scarves from her grandfather, but only because he asked her to. After that, she saw such a mess in the room, as if some pigs or wild animals lived there, getting food. Irene explained that she simply doesn't know how to get out and do laundry, but in a couple of days, she did learn how to make a fire. The surprise of this stranger could not be described in words. She asked if the girl was really some kind of princess or noble lady who could not even do the basics, put away her things. And she also started to scare me that in such conditions I could get sick, and that she was even afraid to go into the kitchen. Because the picture there was probably even worse, Irene continues to ask who she is, because she doesn't understand anything. The thing is that no one warned her that anyone would come to her. Then the girl could not even imagine that this person would become her friend after some time. She began to explain that she came from a sewing workshop. In this village, no one sews better than her, and when she saw the lady's work, for the first time in a long time, she felt competition. She recognized her talent and said that from today, this place would become her new workshop. But before that, she decided to teach her new colleagues something. Naturally, the first thing they did was clean, because it is impossible to relax in such a room, much less study. It is not for nothing that they say that if there is order in the house, then there is order in the head, and the same works vice versa. Thanks to the magicians, there were more people who started working, and the atmosphere in the village changed a lot if the residents mastered the knowledge and skills. They will be able to make money. In general, people's lives will improve in all areas, and that's great. In the middle of the day, everyone was hungry, so Ari volunteered to make mashed potatoes and now offers to try. Marie recently complained that she wanted a snack, and now she says that she will try it later, which is very strange. Irene thought that something had happened to her. She asked what was the matter, and the girl replied that she had seen a gorgeous man today. His face was noble, like a prince. He seemed to just stand there, and such an aura emanated from him that it is simply impossible to describe in words. And if only Irene knew who we were talking about, it would be very interesting to watch the further outcome of events. It is a pity that everything is very confusing. And although the guy was very close to her, nothing has changed. Irene was able to give her a portion of food without her noticing. The girl began to try it without even noticing it. Marie noticed that no one was listening to her. She began to get indignant because she hated being ignored. And she also specifically said that Irene never learned to cook, so that she wouldn't be the only one in a bad mood. Marie spoke again for that guy, and for some reason the image of Leo appeared in the girl's head. But this is already inexplicable and surprising. So that her friend wouldn't feel so offended, she nevertheless supported the conversation and said that, in fact, she would also like to meet a nice man, but now she doesn't have time for it. It's a very difficult topic, so she probably just intuitively didn't support the conversation, so as not to make things worse for herself. When Marie addressed the girl named Ivy, Irene realized that her grandfather had introduced her differently on purpose, just in case. Some time has passed. They are already talking about how the income has increased in a couple of days, and there are more employees. So now it is time to buy a sewing machine, which will make everyone's work much easier. Marie said that this is a special mechanism that sews automatically. Thanks to this, employees will not be so tense, and they will have more desire and strength to return to work every day. The girl heard that recently sewing machines have been actively introduced into the studios that supply clothes to the nobility. And since scarves are selling very well now, these need to be used and, so to speak, strike while the iron is hot. She is sure that if they create a studio and earn a lot of money, they will be able to build a school for children, and then everyone in the village will be happier. After these words, Irene thought that although the scarves were selling well, it would be difficult to build educational institutions with the profits received. Usually the state should do this, but there was no point in hoping for that. The fact that she can live like this now is all thanks to the good people of this village, but that's where the good ends. She is very uncomfortable with the realization that the princess of the country, instead of helping her people, is receiving help herself. She feels helpless as never before because she believes that everything should be the other way around. She already dreams of asking her father and mother to help build the school, but first, for the sake of everyone in this village, she must definitely return to the castle. Meanwhile, in the castle, Crown Prince Vincent was called for an important conversation, but he is not happy about it. He usually prefers to communicate with some important and noble people, and now he does not hide his dissatisfaction that in front of him is an antique dealer who is not at all interesting to him and can hardly be profitable. Then he asked the leopard to explain everything, who this man was and why he should waste his time on both of them. Then he looked closely at the color of the man's hair and eyes and realized that he had heard about him. They say there is a swindler who sells all sorts of junk to the nobility at inflated prices. He has an assumption that this is exactly the man in front of him. The man became very agitated and began to explain that he was an ordinary merchant, of which there were plenty everywhere. Leonardo came closer and showed that he had found something in the man's shop, a necklace that was undoubtedly connected to the royal family, and they also said that it was brought by a young girl. Vincent asked the merchant what his name was, to which he replied that his name was Najumu. The crown prince, without any explanation, called this man a crook and made it clear that he did not want to hear any explanations, as if this was not so. After this, the prince showed him a photo of his sister and asked if she had given him that necklace or not. He looked at me with an indignant look, as if he was beginning to understand the situation, but at the same time, as if the opposite was true. The guy asked what's the matter because it's clear that this question either scared him or surprised him. The merchant grabbed his head. He doesn't know what to answer, or maybe he's just thinking about how to do it right and where to start. These two started demanding that he immediately tell everything. They were already starting to dislike the fact that the man was silent. Moreover, the crown prince is not used to being ignored, especially if it concerns an important matter, and especially if it concerns someone from his family. And then the man says that he is forced to apologize, but he cannot answer this question, even if he is offered a lot of money. And he also stood up from his seat and said that he had his own principles as a merchant, so he couldn't help in any way. And he also said that the girl the prince was looking for probably had her own reasons. The same goes for the one who entrusted him with this necklace. And no matter how important the crown prince's order may be, betraying the client's trust is contrary to his views. The guy just laughed at this. He didn't think it would be so difficult, and he was even interested in checking who would be more persistent. After that, Vincent called him not only a swindler, he called him a funny swindler, and then promised to answer his principles, buy the necklace at a good price. Besides, it originally belonged to the royal family. And then he says he has an idea to have a fun picnic with a fake princess. In the end, they did just that. The three guys already suspect that the princess is not real, and to make sure of it, they let the merchant look at the girl under the pretext of a picnic. The guy politely approached her, said hello, and said that it was a great honor for him to spend time with her. Then he started looking at her very intently, and she noticed it and asked if she had something on her face that he was staring at her like that. In fact, the guy is very surprised that there can be such similar people in this world, and he answered her that he was simply staring at her beauty. And for some reason, they also started showing her what the merchant had collected from all over the world. But it is not yet clear why they are doing this. The girl says that she would like to see this magnificence closer, and the merchant then offers her something more interesting. He offers to show her something special, but now the most interesting part begins. Now the real test will take place. Since this necklace was once sold to him by a real princess, if the girl simply admires it and says nothing, it will become clear that she is not who she claims to be. Meanwhile, Leonardo is talking to the heir, who is very interested to know if the guy knew what kind of scarf it was. Leonardo replied that when he accidentally saw him in the village, he simply thought that he had seen him somewhere. But when he returned to the castle, he remembered. Vincent says it's a good thing he managed to mix it with the goods. And it's strange to him that the girl didn't recognize the scarf she embroidered herself, and that's another suspicion against her. When they asked her how she liked the necklace and scarf, she simply replied that everything was very beautiful. The fake princess didn't even suspect what a mistake she made by not finding out what the real Irene was interested in and doing. Because if she had known, everything would have been different now. The guy had already joined them, and they started telling him that he was much more useful than they thought. At least now they have something to discuss. The most important thing is that they are on the right path, and now there is a much greater chance that justice will prevail. Meanwhile, Ivy is happy that she got herself a wonderful red pendant and ring. Hannah is trying to tell her something, but she, as usual, doesn't listen to her. The girl just asks if the assistant was really so upset that she didn't buy her anything, and hinted that in fact, this would never happen. The assistant was speechless after hearing this. If she had said what she wanted, the lady would not be so pleased now. At some point, she decided to speak without permission. But it was not the best moment, because just then someone knocked on the door and Ivy got distracted. A knight came to them to inform them that His Highness the Crown Prince was waiting for the lady, and he also had very little time, so he asked them to hurry. The lady doesn't understand why there's such urgency. She wasn't planning on leaving the room today, but she can't refuse either. She was just indignant that this was already impudence, and at a time when she hadn't even had time to have a snack. Here she has already come to the meeting. This is the same guy who knows the truth and offered her to cooperate. The Crown Prince accidentally called her by her real name, and she got angry and immediately reminded him that, in fact, recently asked him to call her by the name of a real princess, because if anyone heard that, it would be the end for both of them. After that, she asked him what the topic of conversation was. It seems to her that he either changed his mind or wants to blackmail her. After this, the guy asked the assistant to leave the room so that he could be alone with the girl and not be afraid that this conversation could be heard by someone who shouldn't be. Ivy was afraid to be alone with him. She says that he doesn't have to worry because she already told him everything about him, and Hannah is the only one who knows everything. Oscar didn't expect to hear this. He was preparing for a personal conversation, but since this is the case, there is no point in kicking anyone out now. Meanwhile, the girl wanted to take her first sip of tea, but it turned out to be so hot that she burned her entire mouth. Naturally, Ivy blamed her assistant for everything, although she herself could have checked how hot the tea was, or at least thought that it was a hot drink and should be drunk with caution. Since Hannah has no right to talk to her like that, she just changed. And at that moment, the guy noticed the scarf. He asked where she got it from, and Ivy told him that a funny merchant had come to them today and said that it was some kind of foreign fabric. She wanted to show him the scarf closer, but he looks at her with a stony gaze and remains silent, which is already starting to make her wary. She asks him what happened, asks him to say at least one word, because she is already uncomfortable. And then he starts talking. That's why it wasn't worth getting involved with such an ignorant and poor girl. He doesn't believe that there is even one foreign thread in the scarf, and he also called the scarf cheap, which could only appeal to rural women, nothing more. And then Hannah asks if the princess has never seen the embroidery on this scarf before, and hints that she should look at it right now. Ivy doesn't understand what they are talking about, so she looks at the pattern more closely, although at first it seemed unremarkable to her. In fact, the guy called her because of this scarf, because there are rumors that in the slums a girl with the same face as hers sews them for sale, and after that he asked if she now understood what it meant. He suggests hurrying up and finding the princess as soon as possible, and if possible, getting rid of her on the spot. Hannah can't believe her eyes. She doesn't understand what to do now and what to think of to at least warn or save the lady. A conspiracy is being hatched against her here, and she can't stand aside. She stepped aside to look out the window and somehow hide her emotions on her face and saw cloudy weather. Today was exactly the same as then, on that day when, as it seems to her, she betrayed her mistress. And she also decided that since everything was turning out this way, she would have to try because her conscience simply wouldn't allow her to stand aside. She is also haunted by the thought that this is all because of her. She feels like the only guilty person, although it was the princess's decision, and when she did it, she didn't even listen to Hannah. Now she will try to do everything possible and impossible so that Irene does not suffer from these people who think too much of themselves. The girl thought that she needed to somehow report the danger. She ran out into the street alone, but didn't take into account that those two were also not sitting still. Hannah didn't expect to see anyone on the way. She bumped into that guy, and he reacted so calmly as if he was waiting for her. He looked at her with such a look that she immediately understood that this would not end well because he was not old enough. What was he doing here, and why was he waiting for her? The girl just saw how he started to take something out from behind his back. She started to panic, and her body seemed to freeze in one place, that she couldn't even resist. He plunged the sword into her in a second, and so hard that surely, but really, the only person who knows the truth and is on the girl's side will just leave this life like this and not be able to achieve justice. While she can still hear him, the guy says that he has no animosity towards her, but she knows too much and is to blame for it herself. This is the only reason why she should leave this world. But is all this really for real? If the girl had been more attentive, this might not have happened. It's a pity that in this situation the evil side turned out to be stronger. Meanwhile, these three have already found a way to move forward, and it looks like the owl will help them with this. This is not just an owl. It is a postal owl and not a simple one at all, and the merchant will tell you more about it now. The man asked someone to experiment and come up with some kind of message, and literally a second later, she repeated the same words and exactly repeated Leonardo's voice, as if he had said the phrase twice. And she can also find people anywhere in the world, so they simply need such an assistant. Meanwhile, Oscar tells Ivy what he managed to do while they were apart, and she has a face like she wants to say something. The lady is not entirely happy that the guy treated Hannah so cruelly because she was quite a useful servant. He asks her if the girl has already become attached to her and reminds her that there should not be a single obstacle in their plan, so he made this decision without her. Ivy doesn't like the way he's handling this matter, and she also reminded him that even though he's the crown prince, he still doesn't belong to the state. So she has this question for him. How is he going to take over this country with all this? And the most important thing she wants to hear from him is that they were leaving if necessary. He will be able to destroy someone else or even her. He began to calm her down and said that she was the only person he needed in their plan and that she would definitely not blab to anyone else. And since that was the case, he decided to introduce her to one person who had been in the corridor all this time. She just looked at him and realized that it turned out that he had another accomplice, and she didn't know everything that was going on, and that was already alarming. It turns out that he was hiding something from her, and it is unknown whether there is something else like this, or whether this will happen again sometime. It turns out that this is a chef that he bought from one person, but it is not yet clear how this is connected to their business. The chef's parents were subjects of Libionus, although the crime left the entire family on the verge of imprisonment. And not long before they sent their only son abroad, the guy thought that he would be useful someday and did so to keep him alive. If the girl understood everything correctly, then this man will sooner or later get rid of the king, and she is not ready for that yet. The lady somehow didn't think that everything would go so far. She just wanted to enjoy life. And now she is afraid to get into some trouble and cooperate with dubious people like this man. And then she finds out that they have been carrying out the previously scanned plan for several days now. The chef is adding poison to the king's food little by little every day, so his body will gradually deteriorate. This was invented so that there would be no sharp symptoms and no suspicion would arise about the food that the cook is preparing. All hope is that His Majesty will think that he has some kind of health problems and no one is to blame. Oscar says that there is no need to worry because in this flower country, no one will try the food of the royal family, so no one will suspect that it was destroyed. That is why he needs it. And after that, he asked not to forget, always be careful in your actions. Unless, of course, he wants to end up like her maid Hannah. But that didn't sound very pleasant. Since he was talking about it, it means there is a risk, and as soon as she stops being useful to him, he will have to be feared. Because she is the only one he has talked to about this topic, who is so grateful to him, who will never betray him, unlike her. Meanwhile, the next day has come. Vincent is already walking with the owl and specially walked towards Leonardo's room so that there would be a greater chance of meeting him. Leo asked how the prince is doing, and he asked to look at this beautiful owl, which will significantly speed up the search for their princess. And then asked, how about the owl sniffing the things of the sister? They say that if she is nearby, the bird will definitely smell it, especially since the merchant said that it is better to choose an item that the princess has used recently. Leo throws off, isn't the necklace on the fake princess, and couldn't even think that the guy would answer him. Vincent says that he has the real necklace, and that was a replica for the theft, so there won't be any problems with that. Naturally, Leo was very happy because he couldn't even imagine that he had everything so well under control. Meanwhile, Irene and Marie are busy preparing firewood for other people to use. Today is their charity day. If only the girl knew how many people were involved in finding her, she would be the happiest. For example, now Vincent sent an owl to look for her, along with that very necklace. It's like a hint so that the girl understands that she hasn't been forgotten. All that remains is to hope that their message will reach the princess safely, and Vincent, as always, is confident that everything will be fine. He says that all that remains is to hope that the princess is okay, and that once they find her, everything will go back to normal. He offers to raise it when the girl is back in the castle. He is looking forward to seeing the fake princess's face twisted in anger. Leonardo would also like this day to come as soon as possible, and he sincerely believes that it will happen. Meanwhile, Irene hasn't had a single rest all day and is now busy feeding everyone who wants to try delicious hot fresh soup for free. People are already standing in line. They first believed that they could just get warm soup. They are grateful to her and do not miss the opportunity because it is unknown when this will happen again. She replies to this that she is very happy to give people smiles and believes that in difficult times we need to help each other as best we can. Meanwhile, a friend came from the pharmacy. She bought a lot of medicines, but she missed some of them from the list because they were not available. She suggests changing places because she sees that Irene is already tired. She really needs to rest and cool down. Marie accidentally remembered that she promised to send firewood to the shelter later, so she is forced to ask her friend to help as soon as she can. Naturally, the girl agreed because she understands that if not her, then no one will help her with this. And then she accidentally lifts her head up and notices an unusual bird that she has never seen here before. And it flies straight towards her. So the owl was able to attract attention to itself very quickly, even without much effort. She thought that the bird would just fly past or just dive somewhere here, but she clung to it. While the girl was trying to run away from her, the words were trying to say that she had a message. Irene didn't understand it right away. Then she heard it and started asking what kind of message it was. Right after that, she said, "Irene, it's me. Vincent, I hope you can hear me." The lady immediately recognized her brother's voice, and she also noticed the necklace and couldn't believe her eyes. Then the phrase was heard, "This is a postman bird, but more importantly, tell me if everything is okay with you. Leonardo and I have been looking for you all this time. Tell the owl where you are now. We will definitely find you. Then I'll send Leo right away, and I also have some not very good information while you're not in the castle. A girl with the same face as you pretends to be a princess and commits evil deeds. That's how we knew it wasn't you. The true nature of this lady is unknown at this time. But right now, your safety is the most important thing, so please respond." The girl couldn't believe that it was all true. She trusted Ivy, and if someone else had told her this, she wouldn't have believed it. But she believes her brother and doesn't doubt his words at all. She's a little offended that it was her idea, but now everything needs to be fixed. She can't wait to find out what's going on. Irene is glad that this owl was sent to her, because with its help, everything will be much easier and faster, that's for sure. Right after that, Leonardo spoke to her. She somehow heard his voice, as if it wasn't a bird in front of her, but a real person. The guy asks how she is doing. He has no doubt that the owl gave her the messages from him and the prince. And while she listens to this, he tries to understand how this is even possible. The message continues, "If you heard my voice, please inform the bird of your location, and as soon as we receive it, we will immediately hit the road." Meanwhile, her friend remembered her. She looked to the side and realized that the girl was nowhere to be found, and she urgently needed help to somehow free herself or hide from these children. Irene had to chop wood, but she was not visible even on the horizon, so the girl immediately went to look for her. Meanwhile, in the castle, everything is as usual. Some people have a lot to do, while others, although at work, are still idle. For example, this knight was ordered today, but to guard this place, and since nothing is happening here, he just stands there and does nothing. The essence of the task is that if an owl arrives, he must immediately inform it about it. He was even given these binoculars so that he could see the bird in advance and tell the gentleman about it. The guy just looked at it. An owl immediately appeared on the horizon. He had been waiting for this for a very long time, and finally it happened. Nothing foreshadowed trouble. The bird was flying calmly. Suddenly something knocked it off course, and it happened so fast that it was almost impossible to notice what it was. The knight was very scared. He immediately ran to tell the commander about it. Leonardo only found out about it, immediately understood that it was not an accident, and asked where it happened. The commanders thought at that moment, if, God forbid, the owl died or something happened to it that prevented it from flying, then the princess's life was now in danger. Without thinking twice, he decided to stop today's training, ordered everyone to return to their places, and is in a great hurry to save the owl. Suddenly, as if from nowhere, Oscar appeared. He had a strange smile, and as soon as everyone left, he said how much he wanted to see on the skills of the best knights of the kingdom. And the commander did not quite understand why he was so calm, as if nothing bad had happened. Sometimes the guy wonders how people can be so calm when someone is hurt, but so far it doesn't mean anything to him. Leonardo thought about something and decided to stay. He turned to Mr. Oscar because since he wanted it that way. Watch fencing, then he can also demonstrate his skills to him, and he won't mind. Oscar seems happy. He behaves very strangely. I wonder if Leonardo understands that he is just wasting his time on him. Did he really forget that he actually wanted to check what happened to the owl? And if it could be helped, then it would be more and more difficult with each passing minute. It so happened that the merchant happened to be in the place where the owl landed. What was his surprise when he saw her in such a state? He was especially upset that no one had even told him about it. He looked at her more closely and was horrified. He immediately picked her up and was so upset that he didn't even have the words or strength to be angry at anyone who did this to her. Meanwhile, these two have already raised their swords. Oscar says that he did not expect less from the strongest knight. And at that moment, Leonardo remembers that he has urgent business. He apologized that he had to say goodbye because he really was delayed here for some reason. Oscar hints that he wanted to fight once more, but he will not dare to detain the master. He only asks to become his opponent again after some time. He really wants to compete with him at full strength, not sparing each other. Now these words sounded unsurprising, although it probably means something. Meanwhile, these two still haven't figured out what happened to the bird. Now they are very worried about the fact that if she had a message from the princess, it won't play into their hands. Leonardo has no choice but to find the princess himself. Without anyone's help, he has a feeling inside that the more time passes, the harder it will be to reach the end. He can't help but think that someone is deliberately trying to stop them from doing this, and that someone might be much closer than one might think. Meanwhile, the merchant leaves the princess's room. The two noticed this and attacked him, saying that he is a traitor. They looked as if they were about to attack him and leave no living place, but the merchant quickly calmed down and began to explain that he is not a traitor, as they say. He just delivered silk for the princess's engagement dress. And Leonardo didn't understand what kind of engagement this was. He started asking about it, and as it turned out, the girl ordered to bring the best fabric. He simply followed the order and didn't divulge any secrets, as they might have thought. Meanwhile, they got to the point that the guy has information that the owl brought. But as a merchant, he can't give it away for free, so he offers to make a deal. Vincent furiously asks if he will even bargain with him in such a situation, and also calls him greedy. But in the end, he still agreed to pay even double the price if the information is justified. Here they have already come to the owl. Vincent is very happy to see her, and while he was happy, the commander noticed something else, which at first he did not even believe. He asked the prince to turn around because there was a man in this room who could not possibly be here. And so the merchant says that as soon as the bird returned, he brought the princess here. And it sounds like they are all sleeping now, and this is some kind of dream. No one thought the meeting would happen so quickly. Irene doesn't know what to say, and they all do the same. They don't have enough words to say anything. Tears of happiness appear. These emotions simply cannot be described in words. The princess was only able to say after some time how much she had been waiting for this long-awaited meeting. She immediately ran to Leonardo to hug him, because she had dreamed of doing this since the very day she was forced to stay in the village. Then the crown prince came up to them. They can't let go of each other, because these are all emotions that no one controls. They just can't do it, and meanwhile, the merchant looks at them from the side and smiles. Because it's very nice, and he's glad that all this happened, including thanks to his efforts. The evening had already come. They all naturally did not disperse. They had a small tea party to discuss everything, because surely everyone had something to say. Irene told how difficult it was for her to live in the village, who she met there, and that she almost created a new business. Her brother couldn't even imagine that she was capable of such a thing. He thought that the girl was just sitting in one place and giving up until someone found her, which is why she said that. Nevertheless, she had to face not only bad things, there were also good moments that she will remember for a long time. Thanks to the kind people from the village, she learned a lot about the world, and now she will work with this information to make people's lives better. Leonardo tries to explain that she can't stay in such a place forever and asks to return to the castle as soon as possible. Vincent would also like this very much, but he is the only one who understands that it is not so easy, because they have no proof that the princess in the castle is not the real princess. And now it is very dangerous for Irene to return with them, he suggests, doing everything smartly, to teach the fake princess a lesson and not to take hasty steps. Suddenly the girl says that she has an assistant who will testify, and she also knows that Ivy is posing as a princess. Only if the lady knew what happened to Hannah some time ago, it is difficult to imagine how she will react when she finds out the truth. So far, none of these people know what happened to her. They somehow quickly jump to another topic, not even realizing that in fact that case also needs to be sorted out and the villain punished. They will probably come to this a little later, but now they will be busy with getting Irene back to her place safely and quickly. She asks the prince if he is really suggesting to leave her here, to which he replied that it is not the best idea. It might not be safe for her here, so it would be nice if Leonardo stayed here with her. Meanwhile, the prince returned to his father. He had not visited him for a long time, so he put aside all other matters and came to him. You can see how he suffers, how bad he feels. Even though he says he feels fine, it looks like everything is just the opposite. The man had never been sick, not even with a common cold, but one day his health suddenly deteriorated. Meanwhile, in that very house where Leonardo and the princess stayed for an indefinite period, it turned out to be much more comfortable than one could imagine. The guy thought he would have to survive in terrible conditions, but she cooked breakfast for him in the morning, and overall, there is nothing to complain about so far. He couldn't even imagine that she could cook anything, so the girl pleasantly surprised him, even very much. She says that she learned this from Mari, and also advised to eat it right away, before the eggs get cold, because later they won't be as tasty. Irene left him alone and went to hang out the washed laundry, not even suspecting how interesting it was for him to watch it. The guy couldn't stand it and went outside because he hadn't seen her for so long that he now wanted to watch her all the time. It turns out that he didn't even know that in hot weather, laundry dries much faster outside than in colder weather. The princess was also taught this by her new friend. He is very pleased that she has become more economical, although he understands that she will never have to do any of this in the castle. It was also impossible not to notice that the princess here became much calmer than she had been before. This means that life in this village must have had a positive effect on her, although it was not easy, but she smiles, which means everything is not so bad. He thought that she would be indignant that she had spent a lot of time here, that there was something to do here, that the conditions here were not the ones she was used to, but the girl was behaving as if she had lived here her whole life and had nothing to complain about. And then they remember that she put the pan on the fire and forgot about it. Now it's clear why there was a slight burnt smell. She worked so hard to make this soup, and if it spoils now just because of carelessness, the day will be ruined. The guy had served the princess for a long time, but he had never seen her like this. Now he likes her even more. Or rather her and her behavior. Night came. An owl flew to them very unexpectedly. She saw they treated her. She came to convey words from the crown prince because he can't wait to find out how they are doing here. He also wants to briefly report on the situation in the castle. And before that, he wants to ask that the owl fly not during the day, but at night. If suddenly someone targets the bird again, it will be unpleasant. To be honest, my father's condition has been poor lately, so they'll have to stay in this village for a little while longer. The guy promised to send several reliable servants and also wants to ask if Leonardo can call people from the nightly order for protection. The commander thought that in this case, Santos would be the best fit, even though he behaves like a joker, but he is strong in fencing and his intuition is also good. It was also possible to find out that it looks like the king is being given poison in small doses. So something needs to be done with this clue. To begin with, Vincent decided to call a good cook from the village because he had a hard time trusting the chef from the castle. Basically, that's all. He didn't have any more information, although this was quite enough. The only thing he wants to hear is how he lives with the princess. It is clear that there are enough inconveniences, but he just wants to ask to be near her and help her. Vincent has no one else to rely on, he said so, and after that she immediately flew back. Life with the princess, although the guy understands that his presence is only for protection, spending time together away from the chaotic bustle in the capital turned out not to be so terrible. While he is here, he literally has nothing to complain about. He could never have imagined that it would be so good here. He even thought that if the princess was born with the same status as him, they could spend their days together with peace of mind. The girl probably doesn't realize how much he likes it here. She's constantly thinking about how to please him. But in fact, it is enough for him that they are here together. It is calm here and no one, seeing them together, will gossip because here no one cares about it. Suddenly, when they were walking back to the house, he saw a butterfly on her shoulder and for some reason decided to protect Irene from it. It turns out that he didn't just perceive this butterfly as some kind of dangerous creature. He just remembers one of her fears that she told him about earlier. She was very pleased that he was so attentive. She even began to look at him differently, all because almost no one and nothing distracts them from each other. Meanwhile, the same chef who puts poison in the king's food came to his master and told him that he was suddenly banned from entering the kitchen. However, the king is now very ill. His body is weakened to such an extent that he will not be able to regain his strength to take up state affairs again. Oscar says that's true, he's a good guy, and that's where his role ends. He frees him. At that moment, Ivy knocked on the door. She somehow didn't think and immediately went in, without waiting for any words that she could come in. She opens the door and sees the chef in front of her. She can't believe her eyes and realizes that she appeared at the wrong time and in the wrong place. The most amazing thing is that Oscar wasn't even scared that she understood everything. And the lady can't believe that she is seeing it with her own eyes. And then he says a strange phrase like a dress. The color of blood also looks good, and right after that, he stretched out his hand to her. Words cannot describe what she feels at this moment. She is afraid of his every next word and movement. Meanwhile, the very day of the engagement has arrived. Oscar and the princess will become husband and wife. But it is not yet clear what to do with the fact that in the princess's place, there is not a real princess, and some of the guests know about it. We prepared for this day very seriously, but it is still unclear what will happen next and whether the guy will so easily take the girl as his wife, knowing that she is a deceiver, although he himself is no different from her. The question is whether Ivy is afraid of this, because she recently became convinced of how crazy he is. The guy says it's a shame her father couldn't see how beautiful she is today, and she replies that it's okay. After all, when father recovers, then it will be possible to arrange another reception. She thinks that no one will be against it. Meanwhile, Vincent is already drinking about his 10th glass and can't bring himself to stop. It's just impossible. Leonardo runs up to him, tries to catch him, and also says that he understands his feelings, but he needs to somehow control himself. Vincent asks him to stop grumbling, and he perhaps will continue his performance, but so far, nothing is clear from these words. Meanwhile, Oscar's father enters the hall. Ivy just looked at him and immediately felt that he was some kind of unpleasant person. She was horrified by his mere appearance, and no one thought that he would even be here today, so his appearance was doubly surprising. Says that on such a beautiful day he is immensely happy that his crown prince Oscar is getting engaged to a beautiful girl, Princess Irene. From that moment, the two kingdoms became one country, so he proposes to celebrate this significant event together, which will mark the beginning of a new history of the two states.